you're gonna break into. Up on you.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. Across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, whenever you're listening. Hope you're doing all right. We got a busy show scheduled for today. But first, the show's being brought to you in part by, who the hell's this show being? Oh, yeah. Cats Nationwide Luxury Transportation Service. You're looking for a hottie, and you're someplace in the United States or even Canada, and you want a limo, and you want a hot driver. You got to call Kat. Just remember, she's my girl. 202-351-7496. Show's also being brought to you in part by Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That's Campanaro and Tomkovich. 845-221-4099. My friends down at the Halftime Bar and Grill, Route 9, South Glens Falls. Check them out. 518-792-4869 for directions, and they got good food and all that other stuff. And if you're looking for boxing equipment, there's only one place to go. That's ringside.com. That's right. Check them out, www.ringside.com. They got all kinds of new stuff there. In case you haven't noticed, they got a few new lines. They got the Heritage line. They got those hoodies are outrageous. All kinds of stuff. Check it out, www.ringside.com. It's the only place I go for boxing equipment, and it's the only place you should go to. Make sure you mention Billy C. Demand a Billy C. discount. And, by the way, for all of the gym owners or trainers or anyone else who buys boxing equipment in bulk, make sure you drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, and I'll get you even a bigger and a better discount at ringside.com. Coming up a little bit later, I got some Vinny Paz news. I always like Paz, the Paz man, Vinny Pazienza. Got some news on him. We got a story that was printed about a card that was canceled not once, not twice, but 3 times in Albany, New York. And I find it ironic, and unfortunately, the promoter that was promoting it is a guy that I know and respect and consider a friend. But I'm going to point out again why promoters don't promote anymore. This is a great example of it, and the repercussions of normal business people and how normal business is conducted for any other business in the world except for boxing. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Lamont, you dummy, Peterson, he got a new promoter. I'll talk about that in a little bit. We got a new promotional company that was formed in Germany. I got Brian Minto. You talk about Brian Vera. Brian Minto is a similar fighter, except Brian Vera has got a lot more talent. He's calling out people trying to get payday. We got the Canine Bundridge. We got some news with him. We got a title fight going on in Colombia, which hasn't happened in over 20 years. Mike Molo. And I tell you, the last time I saw him fight live was a great fight, actually, against Andrew Galata on the undercard of Roy Jones Jr. and Tito Felix Trinidad. So I got some news about him. But first, let's talk about some emails. Give a shout out to Jerry. Hello, Jerry, and my man Chatty Factory. So far, the 2 people in the chat room. If you're listening live, come on into the chat room, www.billycboxing.com. On the left-hand side, you'll see something that says chat room. Click it. And by the way, if you create a username and an account, not just to get into the chat room, but if you create a username and account for the BillyCBoxing.com website, not only can you vote on our poll question and stuff like that, the chat room actually keeps you in a lot longer. So, we got my man Xavier Alonso Paradis. He says, I love this guy. Thanks, Xavier. I love you too. Huh? I love you too, man. No, I love when people listen to us for the first time and they feel strongly about it. I got some bad news for everyone. Nobody died unless I missed it. I was looking for some old shows yesterday for research for Tony Treem, and it appears that we've lost a lot of shows from when we first started up through. I had a hard drive crash, and I thought that a lot of them were backed up. But if anybody out there has been a long-time premium podcast subscriber, and by chance, if you've saved the shows, could you please email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. I'm trying to get some of the older shows, and we want to do some modification, edit some pieces out and stuff like that. A lot of great stuff early on in the history of this show, and I don't want to lose it, and unfortunately, I don't have all the copies, damn it. So if you have it, drop me an email. But anyway, Xavier, thanks for the, praise, I guess. We got my man Hawk Mustang says, you are pretty hard on Paulie Malignaggi, Billy C. People can't say you're a racist. That just rides with your own, LOL. Yeah, well, I'm no racist in any shape or form, but he's pulling the Italian card on me, Hawk is. And I got news for you guys. I know a lot of people look at racism today as predominantly a black and white thing, but I got news for you. During the early times, especially in the early 1900s, through all the way up through the 40s and 50s, through Rocky Marciano time, the world was extremely prejudiced against Italians. As a matter of fact, many Italians had to change their name just to get jobs and everything else. My grandfather was one of them. So, it was a serious issue. And as a matter of fact, if you go back in do any research on guys like Rocky Marciano, it's something that they talk about as being, something that really bothered them throughout their career. So, anyway, he says, you're pretty hard on Paulie Malignaggi. People can't say you're racist, blah, blah, blah. He says, Paulie does look pretty stupid with his plucked eyebrows and all of his metrosexual tendencies. But I like Paulie. This is Hawk saying this. He says, I like Paulie. He's a pretty slick boxer with heart and a good chin. His big problem is he can't bust a grape. But neither can Robert Guerrero, who you think is a good match for Mayweather. Robert G is a good match for Paulie, not for Mayweather, who's supposed to be the number one pound-for-pound fighter. First of all, as far as Paulie Malignaggi goes, excuse me, my comments on him are about his comments about himself. He's not an elite fighter. And if anybody out there thinks he is, explain it to me and give me the reasons why. And who is elite to you? To me, there's a handful, less than, maybe a half a dozen elite fighters today. Maybe you can get to 10. I don't know what your definition of is elite, but whether you have 5, whether you have 6, whether you have 10, Paulie's not in those groups. He's not an elite fighter. All right. As far as his heart and his chin, I never said that he didn't have heart. As a matter of fact, I said after the Miguel Cotto fight, I got a lot of, I felt a lot of positiveness about Paulie Malignaggi, and I gained a lot of respect for him. My hang-up with Paulie right now is that he refers to himself as a elite fighter when he's not. He's fallen into, although his last broadcast he didn't do it much. As a matter of fact, he downplayed when they were talking to him about the possibility of the Sugar Shane Mosley fight. He downplayed it, but I didn't like up until last week him constantly referring to himself and everything else when he's given an analyst point of view. So. But, as far as, and by the way, not busting a grape, Joe Santoliquito made a great point about Paulie Malignaggi once. He said, maybe in the boxing circles when, he's fighting against these professional fighters, he doesn't knock anyone out. But he could probably knock me or even you, Hawk Mustang, out. So, I'm not underestimating, as far as normal people, like same thing, the guy sitting on the bench, the third string guy, the guy in the practice squad in the NFL is still better than anybody that's in your neighborhood or whatever playing football. So I give him a lot of respect. I just don't think that he should be in those discussions as an elite fighter. That's my hang up with Paulie. And as far as his, analyst position, I think he does a good job, except when he looks into the camera, he just, whether that's his look and he can't help it, then I'm sorry. But, if it's, his little shtick, if it's his little, sad puppy dog, I'm a dumb F look, then, it's old to me. And same thing, he the way he, presents himself. Maybe it's just me being old-fashioned, but you know what? I think that these guys that are on Showtime and HBO and what have you, they need to dress respectable, and I think Paulie has, with his own little twist to it. But that's Paulie, and I'm okay with that. But it's just listen, he's just not an elite fighter, And as far as Robert Guerrero. My hang up. First of all, Robert Guerrero has a lot more power than Paulie Malignaggi. So let's get that straight right now. That's number one. Number two, I just think that Robert Guerrero is multidimensional. Paulie Malignaggi is not. You fight Paulie Malignaggi, you know that you need to do only a handful of things. Number one, cut the ring off because he's going to be running, and number two, break him down. That's it. He's not going to hurt you, and he may. Batter you with a jab, but you got to get in close with Paulie. That's it. Robert Guerrero, you can't say that. He's done a lot more. Hey, I'm going to take a break. Hold that thought.
If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Roselli Enterprises. Roselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flow boys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Roselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RoselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IBO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the number 15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the number 15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOboxing.com.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
As a young boy, all Billy C dreamed about was one day having his own catchphrase.
And we're back. And we're back.
One boy, one dream, one day. Everyone will say.
And we're back. 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 And we're back.
Catchphrase coming soon to a theater near you.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching a replay on LDL TV. Glad you could join us. Speaking of LDL TV, make sure you tune in on Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time for Billy C's Change My Mind. A lot of discussion going on about that show. People seem to like it, and a lot of discussion carrying over into this show from that show because of some of the topics like. What seems to still be on everyone's mind from last week's Change My Mind, and as a result, we're replaying that show. So if you missed it, check it out on LDL TV Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Billy C's Change My Mind. I'm reading some emails. This one's from Hawk. He says I'm being too hard on Paulie Malignaggi. He feels that Paulie Malignaggi is a good match for Robert the Ghost Guerrero. He doesn't feel Robert the Ghost Guerrero is the right match for Mayweather, who's, in his opinion, is supposed to be #1 pound for pound. Well, that's your opinion, Hawk. I don't think Floyd Mayweather's #1 pound for pound anymore. In my opinion, you don't fight once every 18 months or so against, marginal opposition. And still wear the crown of pound for pound. Now, I don't have, obviously, Manny Pacquiao in there either. If you go look at the Billy C boxing rankings, we actually have Andre Ward as pound for pound #1. And it's based on activity. It's based on, although his injuries may change that, but based on activity, based on level of opposition in your weight class and blah, blah, blah. So, we don't even have Floyd at #1 anymore. He's become a non-issue as far as I'm concerned. But as far as Robert the Ghost Guerrero and Paulie Malignaggi being a good match, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree. I think Paulie Malignaggi and Robert the Ghost Guerrero would be a great matchup. The problem is Paulie obviously is smart, and I'm saying that he's got the dumb deer in the headlights look when the camera's on him. That doesn't mean I never said he was dumb. I said he looks dumb. I said I never said he was dumb because I think he sees what I see. I think he sees that he's got a great opportunity with this ringside analyst stuff during the broadcast. And I think he's going to stick with it. I think he's going to learn from people like Antonio Tarver and Roy Jones Jr. and Lennox Lewis and George Foreman and so on and so forth. That it's a good gig. It beats getting your face punched. And I think Paulie is thinking that way. With that thought process, I also believe that Paulie Malignaggi is thinking about making as much money as he can. And I didn't knock him for holding out, trying to make more money against Shane Mosley. I just feel it's strange that he's, not willing to accept what I'm assuming, and I never knew, and you know what they say about assuming, I never knew, they never said what kind of dollars he was being offered for the Mosley fight, but we do know what Shane was being offered, and that was $350,000, the lowest paycheck Sugar Shane Mosley has gotten in years. So I just assumed that Paulie Malignaggi was around that. I would think that he was going to get at least that, and if not, I certainly wouldn't take the fight either if I'm Paulie. But assuming that he was offered the same amount of money, why not take that fight? I can't see Marcos Maidana paying him more than Sugar Shane Mosley. And by the way, I think it's a tougher fight for Paulie against Maidana. Maidana's got the style to get to Paulie. Paulie may be able to stay away and box Maidana all night long. The question is, can he do it all night long? So, anyway, don't get me wrong about Paulie. I just can't stand the dumb deer in the headlights look when the camera's on him. That's it. But I guess he can't help it. Maybe that's just him. Hawk goes on to say, Billy, I know I follow your show, and I know you don't think much of the Klitschko brothers. That's wrong. Listen, man, it's not that I don't think much of the Klitschkos. I will be the first to admit that it took me a while to appreciate the Klitschkos and what they bring to the sport. And while we're at it, I'm not even finishing reading this. I'm going to finish it, but while we're at it, Lennox Lewis, I have said time and time again, should get all the credit. And I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm saying credit. For changing the complexion of the heavyweight division. Today, what we see in our heavyweights, or at least the upper echelon heavyweight, for now anyway, is over 6'5". It weighs more than 240 pounds, and is in top physical condition, chiseled. We're not looking at 250-pound fat pigs. If I was 6 foot, if I had the same physique I have now, and I was 6'5", I'd be a fat pig. I'm a fat pig now at 5'8". So, come on. The bottom line is this. Lennox Lewis and the Klitschko brothers, at the time, it took me a little while to warm up to them. Now, the Klitschkos, I feel, are quality fighters. My hang-up is just, their quality because of their size. Let me go on. So Hawk says, I know you don't think much of the Klitschkos. Do the Klitschko brothers have the greatest skill? No. But did Jack Dempsey have great skill? No. I have seen very little skill from him. The Klitschko brothers only need a jab and a straight right hand to beat these guys. They don't need to be fancy. They just need to win and knock out bums. Dempsey would have been just another little bum that got knocked out. Let's not overhype the dead guys. Dempsey would be an easy 6-round knockout for either brother. You see, Hawk, what you just said there kind of backs up what I say until you got to the obvious point. Number one, you said yourself, first you say that I don't think much of the Klitschkos, and you also admit that they don't have the greatest skill, but then you say the Klitschko brothers only need a jab and a straight hand to beat these guys. Now, why is that, Hawk? Why is that? Why do only the Klitschkos and Lennox Lewis, for that matter, only needed their jab and their right hand to win, and not only win, to dominate. Not only dominate, but really dominate. Why? Is it because they display the world's greatest jab and have the world's most powerful right hand? Come on, if you're answering yes to either one of those questions, you're extremely demented. You're delusional, because the bottom line is this. Listen, any one of those three did not possess freakish power. For a guy that big, David Hay possessed more freakish power pound for pound than any one of those three, the two Klitschko brothers or Lennox Lewis. And I don't even like David Haye. So let's not get real there. It's the size, man. It's the size. It's the 6'6" body, with the wingspan that they have and the ability to utilize their size. See, that's where you got to give the Klitschkos and Lennox Lewis credit. Other big guys in the past maybe were not able to utilize their size advantage as well as the Klitschkos and Lennox Lewis. That I give them credit for. But to turn around and make a statement like, Jack Dempsey had no skill, what's wrong with you, man? Listen, I highly recommend that all of you that think that these guys possess no skill to go back and watch some film. All right? Now, the thing is this. What you have to take in consideration about the film is that the film is not high definition and it's not shot the way film is shot today. But what you can see, you may not see the color, you may not see, some of the slow motion replays and stuff like that. But what you will see that you won't see with any of the Klitschkos or even for that matter, if you go back and watch some of Lennox Lewis's fights, even though Curon sent me something, I'll get to that in a little bit. But what you will see with a guy like Jack Dempsey or Rocky Marciano or you go back, you look at some of the other great fighters, even more recent times like Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, and so on and so forth. What you're going to see is head movement. You're going to see multiple, many different weapons in their arsenal. Multiple game plans. In other words, you'll see them, establishing the jab. You'll see them headhunting. You'll see them working the body. You'll see them defensively. You'll see them fleet of foot. Jack Dempsey, to say he had no talent, was he a crude fighter? Was he a guy that came in after you, similar to a Jake LaMotta or someone like that? Yeah, but what you do see also is you see the head movement. He was extremely hard to hit. Do you think that no one had boxing ability back in Jack Dempsey's time? Gene Tunney was the only guy that was able to use it because he was conditioned enough to withstand Dempsey. And, oh, by the way, that was towards the end of Dempsey's career anyway. Not that I'm making excuses, but Jack Dempsey was an extremely talented fighter. Extremely. And I'm not just giving credit to the dead guys. I don't think, no disrespect to Floyd Patterson, but I didn't think Floyd was anything. I didn't think Floyd Patterson was much. Jimmy Ellis, I didn't think he was much. And these guys are regarded as by some as great fighters. So, I'm not just, you don't have to be dead to get credit, the bottom line is this, I think you're wrong. And when you look at, these guys, now what makes these guys, the Dempseys and the Marcianos and so on and so forth, which makes them more, in my opinion, which gives them more of a chance of beating these much bigger physical men, was the fact that they possessed the skill sets that a lot of the shorter, smaller heavyweights today do not. And that's the big difference. Listen, I have never once said that the Klitschko brothers or Lennox Lewis would be a tough out because of their size and strength. But that's it. And that's the same reasons I give why I don't like putting a guy like that in a pound for pound. Because if you take away, and this is the easy question, for any heavyweight that you're wondering about, could they, should they, well, how good were they? If you take any heavyweight that you like, whether it be a guy like Jack Dempsey, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, or modern fighters like Lennox Lewis and the Klitschko brothers or David Haye or whatever, and you look at what they bring to the table, and you take that skill set and now shrink them into another body in another weight class. I'm not saying, I'm not using the old, well, if Jack Dempsey fought today, he'd be bigger. No, because then he wouldn't be Jack Dempsey. But take their skill set and put them into a middleweight. put them into a welterweight with the same skill set. You know, if they have unbelievable power, if they have a great body work, if they have good stamina, if they have a lot of heart, all of those skill sets go into the same body as a welterweight or as a middleweight. Now tell me how good they are. Do they possess the same stuff? Are they just as good? You know, that's the question.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at a stretch of that man, I would think.
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York in the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell him Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. My fellow Americans, good evening. Welcome back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It's great to be here discussing the sweet science with everybody. I love boxing. I love talking boxing. It's what I do.
Bill.
Wait, what?
Bill.
Why are you interrupting me? Wait, what?
Wrong.
What's
wrong,
the problem?
Billy
What?
C.
I did not have...
We're gonna have to ask
wrong
you.
speech. What do you mean wrong, Billy C? What's going on here? Fine, I'll go. I just wanted to talk some boxing on TPSradio.net. That's all I wanted to do. I don't need your damn show. I'll get my own talking wrestling with the other Billy C. Yeah, that sounds good. I've always been a Hulkamaniac anyway.
Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And we're back. Yeah. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us on Fight Now. And if you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel, if you need to call your local television provider, whether it's satellite dish or cable, and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. Coming up, for everyone just joining us, we got some Vinny Pazienza news I'm going to talk about. I also got an interesting commentary that was written in an Albany newspaper about the cancellation of shows, and it's going to knock home some stuff I say about promoters today. Lamont Peterson, he signed with a new promoter. We'll be talking about that. Also, K9 Bundridge, his next fight we'll talk about. World title championship fight coming to Columbia in the first time in over 20 years. And Mike Molo making his return to the ring. Be talking about all of that coming up. A reminder, don't forget about tomorrow. We got our Blast from the Past with Alex Papali. It features former world champion and Boxing Hall of Famer Billy Papke. And then Thursday, Tony Treem returns with the heavyweight spotlight. And Tony and I are going to talk about Elmer Ray. a fighter. An interesting thing, and this goes out to anybody that's been a long-time listener of the show, especially you premium podcast subscribers. And by the way, if you want to help this show out, you want to show your support, $15 a year for a premium podcast is all we ask, man. So why don't you do that? BillyCBoxing.com. You can do that very easily. But for all the longtime podcast subscribers, if you have the shows that you save, if you save the shows and you have some ones prior to 2010, please drop me an email, Billy at TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. We seem to have lost our archives. Yeah, one of the hard drives crashed, and we've lost a lot of the early shows from when we started up until about 2010. So we've lost quite a bit. At least I haven't looked in all the places that they could be, but as of now, it doesn't look good for us. So if there's any help that you can give us in terms of showing us some fights that you may have, please drop me an email, Billy at TalkinBoxing.com. Here's the thing. They got some good comments in the chat room. And Hangin' Fire says, Paulie Malignaggi, he looks dumb, but he's not. No, I know. I said that yesterday. I know he's got that stupid look, but he's definitely not. He's very intelligent. I like his job. As a matter of fact, I think he did the best job last week, this past weekend. And the reason I say this is because he stopped talking about himself. It always seems like when we come on and we bash these guys. Remember Gus Johnson? We came on that show, on the Monday after he was yelling and screaming at us the first time he was on Showtime. And, we were pretty critical here on the show and about him yelling and screaming. And sure enough, man, the next time he came back, he toned it down and he did a decent job. Same thing with Paulie. Paulie was talking about how great he was, that he's an elite fighter and this and that. Oh, when I fight, I do this. Oh, when I fought so-and-so, I did that. He stopped all of that. So it was much better. But Hangin says he believes Andre Ward. He enjoys watching him do commentating. And I personally feel that Andre Ward is, out of all of them right now, is the best because not only does he give good, sharp, correct, point-on analysis like Paulie Malignaggi does, you never hear him talk about himself. He always makes it about the fighters he's watching, which I respect. But anyway, back to the emails. All of my main point to close this up is that the Klitschko's and Lennox Lewis do not possess multifaceted skill sets. They have a jab, they have a right hand, that's it. They have no footwork, they have no head movement. I've never seen any of them throw body shots or hooks or uppercuts or anything like that, although Lennox did in the past. Kieran actually sent me a link to an earlier fight, and we were joking about it, saying, yeah, he used to do it, but then he forgot. But I don't know if he forgot as more as it's what Hawk is saying, that they don't need to do anymore. So when you take that limited skill set and you put it in a welterweight's body, the size goes away. Because when you do these dream things or pound-for-pound rankings, the size goes away because a heavyweight doesn't have a size limit, so he can be 6'7", 260 pounds of muscle and just have a jab in the right hand and be dominant. But if he was a welterweight, he wouldn't have a foot or half a foot height advantage. And if he did, he wouldn't have the physique because you'd have the weight limit. So when you subtract the size, because when you go pound for pound, the size gets eliminated. All the skill set stays. So you take a guy like Floyd Mayweather Jr. If he was a heavyweight, he would be fantastic. If Muhammad Ali was a welterweight, he would have been fantastic. If Sugar Ray Robinson was a heavyweight, he would have been the greatest ever. Rocky Marciano as a middleweight would have been devastating. Mike Tyson as a middleweight, devastating. You take a look at even Jake LaMotta. Could you imagine Jake LaMotta as a heavyweight? Well, then again, he would just be Rocky Marciano, right? But I mean, now look at take a Klitschko as a middleweight. He's got a jab in the right hand. How's he going to fare against Marvin Hagler? You know, how's he going to fare against? Let's look at Klitschko. Let's take Klitschko right now with his jab and his power right hand, and let's make him a welterweight and put him in with Floyd Mayweather. How's he going to do? How's he going to do with Manny Pacquiao? You know, as a welterweight. How's he going to do with Timothy Bradley as a welterweight? All he's got is a jab and a right hand. These guys eat him up, man. Eat him up. But you can't say the same if you take a guy like Jack Dempsey. Make him a welterweight. You really think Floyd will eat up Jack Dempsey? You know, considering Jack Dempsey still has all the head movement, the freakish power, the aggressiveness, all that stuff. You think Rocky Marciano, as a welterweight, would have been eaten up by a Floyd Mayweather or the likes? You know, come on. That's what pound for pound is all about. And no, it's not about them being dead, but keep them up, Hawk. I love it. XD Raven V2 says, I think Vitali would beat some all-time greats. And so do I. I mean, if we had the time machine and you took Vitali Klitschko or Vladimir or Lennox at that size and put him in with these guys like the Jack Dempsey, I'm not, even though Tony Treem changed my mind last week, I'm not, I wouldn't be so shocked to see the bigger good guy beat the smaller good guy. I mean, Coach K was saying that in the chat room yesterday. But all I'm saying is that, you can't compare the skill set. That's it. He says the same people who say Klitschko's dominate a weak division today say that Tyson was a top 10 heavyweight, even though a prime Tyson beat bums and faded fighters. He says, by the way, I'm not a big Klitschko fan, but they deserve more respect than they get. And if they were American, they would get hailed as all-time greats. That's not opinion. That's fact. It doesn't matter about size. It's whether they would win or not. Yes, they would win due to their size, but it doesn't matter. And that's all I'm saying, Raven. My point is, and first of all, they are going to be considered all-time greats. They are going to get into the Hall of Fame, and I do respect them. I feel that they deserve credit for utilizing their biggest asset, which is their size. And if you look at the Klitschkos specifically, they have learned and adapted and become proficient at throwing punches and delivering meaningful punches at smaller opponents. Look at the tape. Go watch footage of Klitschko's fighting at the beginning of their career, and they were not as proficient at fighting the smaller guy as they are today. Their punches come in a downward motion. They're emphasizing the maximum power. This is all based on their intelligence, and they're always in great shape. Listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing them. All I'm saying is that their size is their biggest skill set. And as heavyweights, and even if we took that size and carried it back into the time zone, if we went back to in the day, and you let them keep their size, they're going to dominate too. And yes, we can only judge a fighter by who he fights within his era, and that's why I hope that someday a guy like Floyd Mayweather is, that people look at the fact that he has not fought the best fighters of his era, and take that into consideration. Lennox Lewis did. The Klitschkos are. The division is weak, but they're fighting everybody that's out there. Who haven't they fought? Who could we accuse the Klitschkos of ducking? You can't. There's no one you can name. So anyway, Master Blaster says, and by the way, Tyson being an all-time top 10, I don't know. It depends, because Tyson possessed a lot of skill. And again, you got to look at that skill set. If he was big, could you imagine if Mike Tyson was a Klitschko? If he had a Klitschko size, come on. Master Blaster says, I strongly disagree with your analysis of the Klitschkos. If you watch Vitali's fight with Chisora, you'll see him throw plenty of body shots. I think Vitali is a skilled fighter. I think Vitali would handle Dempsey easily because of his ability to stick and move, and not really because of his size. He says, watch Tunney versus Dempsey. Vitali's style resembles Tunney's. Vitali also has advanced defensive skills. He uses his shoulders to block shots, plus he has great timing which in my opinion is his best asset. Yeah, you make a great point, Master Blaster, about his timing, and I think Vitali, does show a little more than Vlad. Vitali, if you recall, I think broke the record for the amount of punches thrown or landed or whatever against Samuel Peter. But defensively, I think he takes. You say that he uses his shoulders to block shots and everything else. I don't know. Show me a clip where he uses his shoulders, because I never really see anybody get that close to either Klitschko. I do think that Vladimir has a better defensive stance than Vitali. Vitali fights with his hands down. He fights similar to Carl Froch, in my opinion. But definitely, my analysis of the Klitschkos, is that they're the top heavyweights of today, and that nobody's going to beat them. My analysis of the Klitschkos is that they're extremely big men, and they're very athletic, and they come in shape, and they're great role models and all of this. But I'm sorry, they don't have head movement, and they don't have some of these other things. I strongly recommend that you guys seek out and watch some of these fighters, man, some of the old day fighters. But anyway, Gustavo Pena says, hey, BC, I know you're very critical of promoters over... You guys must think... man. He says, I know you are very critical of promoters overprotecting their young fighters, sometimes even being too harsh on them. But the opponent they fed to a 2012 Olympian, Errol Spence, was ridiculous. You see now, Gustavo, my opinion is that, they shouldn't be criticized for giving him. It was only his third fight. Errol Spence Jr. was his third fight. Was the guy that he fought, a total, I don't want to use the word bum, because it was only his second fight. But was he a total mismatch? Yes. But we can't expect them to put these kids in, in knockout, drag out, fights from day one. I think they deserve to at least get 10 fights under their belt before we're critical. And as it's unfolding for Demetrius Andrade, I mean, the bottom line is, he looked pretty good the other night. So I don't know. But we'll see. We got Carol in the chat room right now. She says, I like both Klitschkos. The thing is that, you guys got me all wrong about the Klitschkos. All I'm saying is that, they are big, athletic, good businessmen and all that stuff, and they're dominating, okay? I am never taking that away. Are they going to be Hall of Famers? Yes, they're both going to get in the Hall of Fame. Are they going to be regarded as all-time greats? Yes, they are. All I'm saying is that they've become proficient and extremely skilled with their size as their biggest skill set. End of story. As far as the young fighters, I just gave my opinion about that. I got one more here. I got one more and then some info that's interesting. This one is from Alex T. Alex says, guys like Brian Vera are the reason I watch this sport and love it. He says, the classic overachiever has always been more interesting to me than the guys who are so good technically that they can put you to sleep. I appreciate and love a skilled boxer as much as the next guy, but boxing is the only sport where a guy who doesn't have as much skill as the next guy can turn things around in an instant. I'm just going to pause for a second. That is so evident about Rocky Marciano. I've always said that what I admire about Rocky Marciano and why I have him in my all-time great top 10 heavyweight list is because he didn't really possess the skill sets we look for in boxers today, at least in hot prospects, just like they did to Rocky when he was coming up. If you saw him in the gym and somebody was asking you to invest money in him, you'd laugh. You'd go, for what, man? This guy's got nothing. He's got no footwork. He delivers his punches wrong and this and that and the other thing. And the word overachiever that Alex T chooses to use here is a perfect description of a guy like Rocky Marciano, and who he's describing here is Brian Vera. So He says, one thing I have noticed about Teddy Atlas is that he loves to score an even round. This is something I hate. I think it should only be done in very rare circumstances. Say each guy gets dropped once in the same round, then it's an even round. Well, not necessarily. And you make a good point, Alex T, because they came up with the 10-point must system to try to avoid giving fighters the even round. You know, listen, I know that some of you guys have been on my ass about Teddy Atlas and being critical of him. Listen, I enjoy listening to his, comments and stuff like that at times, and, even at times I agree with him when he gets on his soapbox at times. But what I can't stand is when they give him a scorecard and a pencil, because the guy should get a coloring book and a crayon. He can't score. He can train. He can do everything else. He's an ambassador to the sport of boxing. He's an asset to ESPN. He's an asset to the sport. But please keep the scorecard out of his hand. He does not know how to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody knows how to score a fight. And you're right. He goes on to say, I'll read it here. I glanced at it. He says, I think even rounds can really screw up the scorecards. And I also agree with you about scoring of a knockdown. In my opinion, if the referee rules that it's a knockdown, then the judges should have to score it as such. That's one of the things that's wrong with boxing. Do you remember the first Holyfield-Mora fight? I remember Holyfield dropped Mora with a clean shot, and one judge scored it an even round. Foreman was calling the fight on pay-per-view and really let loose about that scorecard, and when the fight was rebroadcast on HBO the following Sunday, HBO removed Foreman's triad about the scoring of that round. And if you remember, that fight was a razor-thin majority decision for Mora. The scoring of that round may have very well affected the lineage of the heavyweight title. Can you imagine if in baseball, if a batter hits a home run, but it just barely made it over the wall, and the umpire says, I'm not going to rule it a home run. I'm going to give him a double because it just barely cleared the wall. And he makes a great point. It wouldn't happen. People would freak out. He says, that's what I feel like when these judges ignore the call of a referee and make their own decision on a knockdown, whether or not they agree with it. And I agree with that. The only time I would use my own judgment is in a case of a referee calls a knockdown when maybe he missed that it was clearly a slip. If there was no punch thrown and the guy falls down and the referee calls it a knockdown, then I could see you ignoring it. But when there's a punch thrown, even if it's a little tap, a Paulie Malignaggi punch, even if it's a gnat punch, you got to score it. You got to, whether Teddy likes it or not. He says, hey, man, I'm sure there are people that think you beat up on Teddy for his scoring of the fights, but I'm going to agree with you in a sense that to score a fight correctly, you need to sit there and pay complete attention to the fight. You can't talk to the viewers or have a conversation with your co-host. I think Teddy does the best, and I personally like him, but he has so many distractions trying to do the broadcast while he's keeping score. There's no reason. There is a reason why HBO only checks with Harold Letterman periodically during the fight. It's because he needs to pay attention to keeping the score. What a great point by Alex T. If you think about that, they leave Harold Letterman alone. Harold Letterman scores. And listen, whether you like Harold Letterman or not, his scorecards are usually dead nuts on, man. I mean, his scorecards a lot of times, 99% of the time, I agree with Harold Letterman's scorecards. I mean, 99% of the time. And he makes a great point here. Teddy Atlas is talking about, other fights. He's talking about commissions. He's talking about federal. He's talking about the state. He's talking about this. He's talking about that. And then all of a sudden he says, I scored that round even. What? Did you even watch the fight, Teddy? Did you even watch that round? Great points by Alex. He says, it just occurred to me as I'm typing this, Teddy was in the corner for Mora the night he won the title, possibly due to a judge scoring error. It's kind of erotic, everything I'm saying here. Yeah, and I can't disagree with Alex's email here. And the bottom line is, again, I enjoy Teddy Atlas at times. It's just, and then when he scores a round, and if you take in consideration what Alex is saying, he's talking to this one, he's commenting on the fight, and then he's interviewing a fighter that's sitting there, he's looking at a ring card girl, whatever, and they come back to him and he said, how'd you score that, Teddy? I scored it for so and so. And then, the judge scored it for somebody else. And then he's outraged that the judge scored it opposite than him. And in the most part, you see the judges all staring and watching every single fight. You know, I think Steve Farhood said it best once. He said, the proper way to judge a fight is to divide it into 3 parts. To judge a fight is to judge each round and divide each round into 3 parts, a la 1 minute, okay? 3 1-minute parts, and come up with your win. You know, don't watch 3 minutes of a fight and the last 30 seconds you see fighter B come on strong and then give it to that fighter. You know, Teddy and Joe Tessitore made that exact point 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago when they opened up their Friday Night Fight series. There was a fight, I can't even remember who the hell was fighting, but, it was kind of a boring round. But fighter A was getting, at least landing the most of the pitter-pat, boring punches. But at the end of the round, just as the bell sounds, fighter B lands a good shot. And Joe Tessitore and Teddy Atlas both say, well, because of that one punch, I'm going to give him the round. What? How do you give him the round for that? I don't know. Curon gave me some information. Now, if you missed it, Henry Haskup sent us some information about licensed fighters fighting in the States for 2012. And he also told me that, told us on the report that there were 2,795 total United States licensed fighters who fought in 2012. And you may think that that's a big number, but the total for the world, which includes that number of 2,795, was 17,845. If you subtract the 2,795 that the states had, you're left with roughly 15,000 fighters that were licensed. Well, Kieran gave me some facts for the United Kingdom. He says in 2012, there was 261 shows. In 2011, there was 219, so it was definitely up. He says 951 boxers were licensed, and that number is growing. He says December happened to have had the most number of fights going on in 1 month since 1952. There were 14 shows in 1 weekend alone, and that was the last week in December, which is amazing to me. And he says now boxing is being claimed to be the 4th biggest sport in the UK by the experts, which is, again, great. If you take that 951 boxers that are licensed, and you subtract it from roughly 15,000, you're looking at around 14,000 fighters that are licensed outside the United States and outside the UK, which incidentally is a huge number still. Where the hell are all the fighters? If 14,000, if you take away the United States licensed fighters and the English licensed fighters, the UK licensed fighters, and you're still left with around 14,000, where the hell are they, man? Are they all in the Ukraine? Are they all in Asia? I mean, where are they? Where are they? That's a lot. That's a lot, man. Still 14,000, but anyway. Hey, thanks for all the emails. Listen, we got some news to talk about. Vinny Pazienza in some trouble at the bar. Made an interesting comment about drinking and whether or not it's a problem for him. Lamont Peterson signs a promotional agreement. We got an interesting article was printed in an Albany newspaper about boxing, and I want to point out some of my thoughts about promoters and why they're lazy, and this is a negative impact on the sport, trying to think outside the box and all of that other stuff. And one last thing, Mike Molo, last time I saw him fight was actually at Madison Square Garden against Andrew Golota on the undercard of Roy Jones Jr. and Felix Trinidad. And he's fighting again Friday night against an up-and-coming fighter. I want to talk about that and a bunch of other stuff, all coming up in about 2.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Beat Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing Studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C show. He's Billy C, and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. The Billy C show. Yeah. And you're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us. If you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel lineup, call your local television provider and tell them you want Fight Now right now. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on the website, www.fightnow.com. We got today's the Long Island Day, man. We got Carol in the chat room. She's originally from Queens. I know my man Coach is from Long Island. I sent him enough prizes, and I'm from Long Island, man. So we got a lot. Oh, she lives in Montauk now. You know, I did a lot of projects out in Montauk. Love it out there, except for the Sharks, man. Except for all them Sharks. But guess what? Here's my thing, and I think Carol is going to agree with me now. And I argue with this with my friends all the time from Brooklyn. All right. Here's the thing. Maybe me and Paulie should have a contest. I'm from Long Island. I know Paulie Malignaggi is from Brooklyn. Here's the age-old argument between Brooklyn and Long Island. Who's got the better bagels? Who's got the better bagels? I'll tell you right now who's got the better bagels. Long Island has the better bagels. That's right. I don't care what anybody says. Long Island has the better bagels. But anyway. Vinny Pazienza, one of my favorite guys in and out of the ring. We've had him on this show a bunch of times. She wants to know where I'm from originally. From Long Island. I'm from Levittown, actually. I'm from Levittown. But anyway, Vinny Paz, just like Brian Kenny, by the way, a cohort. Vinny Pazienza was involved in a Warwick, Rhode Island bar scuffle, and he had to go to court yesterday. And I guess you know, I don't know what the deal was. Apparently the bartender said, "Hey, I brought over his check." And asked him to leave. So it sounds like he was being obnoxious or whatever, Vinny was. And Vinny got mad. He didn't pay the check, and he started throwing bar stools around the place. And eventually was arrested or whatever. Now they said that they feel that he's got a drinking problem. And Vinny Pazienza was quoted as saying, "I don't need alcohol treatment." He says, listen, this is how I feel about it. Alcohol with me is not a problem. It's an issue. That's it. Not a problem. When I got things to do, I do my thing. I don't drink. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It's an issue but not a problem? You know, I don't know, Vinny. I mean, I stick up for Vinny Pazienza as much as I can. You know, but that statement, he should have zipped it, you know. As far as being in a bar and He says, the problem is, I walk into a place, everybody knows me, the eyes are always on me and all of that. Well, here's the problem, man. When you become a figure, and this is my argument all the time, this is my problem all the time with superstar athletes and everything else. It comes with the job, man. You're going to be making, and I'm not suggesting that Vinny Pazienza made millions and millions of dollars or that he still has it or whatever. But, when you're an upper echelon superstar athlete and you're making the big bucks, you're in the limelight and everything else, you become a role model. You become a guy or a gal that's, a target, whether it's good or bad. That comes with the job description. Normal Joe Schmo people that walk around, that live life the way 99% of us live, normally, they don't have these issues. They can go into a bar and unless they're acting like an idiot, can have a time and leave. If you are an upper echelon athlete, or if you've, whatever the case is, if you're Vinny Pazienza and you're in Rhode Island, a place that everyone knows him, then you know what? Maybe you should, keep that in the back of your mind. He makes a statement that people watch me. I can't go into a bar. They don't leave me alone. Then stay the hell out of the bars, Vinny. If you're being targeted, if it's everyone against you, if that's what you feel, then stay the hell out of it. Nobody's forcing you to go there. And to suggest that you have an issue with drinking, meaning that when you don't have anything to do, you can go out and tie one on and throw bar stools around in a public place, that's not cool. It's not cool. I love Vinny Pazienza. But to me, this, he shouldn't have said what he said. But listen, if you've ever met the guy, he's a nice guy. He really is. So maybe it is an alcohol issue. There was the Times Union Center in Albany, New York, was going to be the home of a star boxing event this weekend. And Joe the Future Hanks is a heavyweight, undefeated. He was fighting another undefeated guy. Now, this fight that was scheduled, role model like, yeah, Coach K saying a role model like Mayweather. That's my point, Coach. My point is that, you got a guy like Mayweather who, influences young people. They want to become fighters or whatever, and they want to be like him. That's scary. I think this world could do without one Floyd Mayweather, let alone little clones, little Mayweathers running around. But and I don't mean his family. I just mean little clones of him. But anyway, this card that took place that was scheduled to take place at the Times Union Center was rescheduled not once, not twice, but 3 times, and then ultimately was canceled. And, the reasons were all legit, injuries, and then the lack of condition due to the injuries and what have you. We know that. We're in the boxing business. We know that. You guys are boxing fans. You see it all the time. We just saw it with Danny Garcia and Zab Judah. Danny Garcia hurt his ribs, so he's not going to be fighting Zab Judah. They have to reschedule it. It's going to be fighting again. It's the nature of the beast, man. These guys train physically, and they get injured, and they're not going to fight if they're not 100%. We can't really knock them as long as it's a legitimate injury. And I'm not for a minute suggesting that there wasn't a legitimate injury here. And at one time, actually, I did think that, to be honest with you, I did think that the ticket sales were poor, because I felt that it was ridiculous that Star Boxing had a main event with no one from the area in which they had this live event. There was no TV or anything like that there. So, all they had was the gate. And when you don't put a local main event on, sometimes the ticket sales are not that great. So I thought that the reason why they kept postponing this fight, and I'm being totally honest, was lack of ticket sales. I figured, Joe doesn't want to lose any money. He's a businessman. And, it came out in this article that was in the Albany Times Union, and it was written by Tim Wilkin, that the owner of the Times Union Center, or at least the big cheese over there, is really pissed off. And the reason is because Joe DeGuardia got the Times Union Center to co-promote the show. So now they solidified not 1, not 2, but 3 dates that they didn't book anything else. They helped with the advertising and marketing and selling of the tickets, which I know for a fact is true because they reached out to me. We had an advertising agreement with the Times Union, for the event, that we invested time and money and effort, and we end up with nothing, just like the Times Union ends up with nothing. Here's my hang-up. Joe DeGuardia and Star Boxing, they did the smart thing when they put their business hat on. He didn't invest a penny. He got the venue to co-promote it, so he didn't have to pay for the venue. He didn't have to pay for the marketing because the Times Union wanted to sell as many tickets as Star Boxing because they were going to split the revenue and all that stuff. All Star Boxing had to do was get the fighters. And what do they do? When you see fighters that aren't local on a card, that's their fighters. So of course Joe wanted to get all his fighters on the card. It's a very inexpensive way. Think of the lack of expense that when you remove the cost of the venue and a lot of the money that comes with that venue, like security. I'm sure Times Union had their own security staff. So that means Joe DeGuardia doesn't have to pay for that. The tickets and the printing of the tickets and the selling of the tickets and the marketing of the tickets and everything to do with the tickets, all was absorbed by the Times Union. So here's where my issue is. My issue is that we wonder why we don't have that crossover, that appeal. Now, on one hand, we applaud Joe DeGuardia for being able to get a venue like the Times Union Center, which is a humongous venue. It's a great place for boxing. We got to give Joe DeGuardia and Star Boxing all the credit for cutting the deal, for getting them, for convincing them to get involved. Here's where it backfired. The sport of boxing is like no other. The Times Union Center, they're used to bringing in acts like concerts or hockey games or those monster truck things or other performances, whatever. And when they, with the exception of the rarity when a performer gets sick and can't go on or something like that, other sports and stuff like that, they rarely get cancellations. They rarely have the issues that fall into place with boxing. And oh, by the way, don't forget about the commission, that New York State Athletic Commission, that same group of people that are power hungry fools. Our current New York State Athletic Commission, their feet and their hands were in this too, because they had to make sure things were up to their standard. So that burden, again, falls on one of the two, either Star Boxing or Times Union. I don't know what the details of their deal was. But my point is this. We wonder why other businesses stay clear of professional boxing. We wonder why promoters don't want to invest money. I myself am critical of promoters that build up their fighters as cheap as they can and put them on other major promoters' cards to make money and stuff like that. I'm critical of these promoters, but the question is, should I be? Is it the promoter? Is it the lack of promoter that is taking the chance? Is it the lack of risk that the promoter is doing, or is it smart business? Is it the sport itself that brings itself down because of the nature of what it is? Two guys fighting, two guys preparing for that fight. An injury occurs, a contract dispute, allegations of corruption. I mean, there's so many pieces of the puzzle, and it just goes to show you that boxing is not like any other business. My background in life, I have an IT background, a computer background, and I've been involved in business my whole life. And I've, done a lot of work for multiple businesses because of the computer industry. I had my own computer company. And I had to become proficient with other businesses to get to understand the flow of all kinds of businesses, law firms and delis and repair shops and what have you. And I had to learn the flow of their business in order to give them a solution for computer. And the bottom line is that in my 26 years of boxing, I have never seen another business close to the way business in boxing is run. It's the only business that's run by people that don't know the sport. You're not going to find somebody in the a repair business, auto repair business, that doesn't know a thing about cars. You're not going to find a contractor in the construction business that doesn't know anything about, construction. You're not going to find a guy that owns a football team that doesn't know anything about the sport of football. But boxing, you got managers that don't know a left hook from a fish hook. You got trainers that are rah-rah men, that are nutritionists, that are weightlifters. We're even getting fighters, as what we could have witnessed this past weekend, that have no business being in the ring with another fighter as a professional. So, it's the only sport, it's the only business that's out there that I can see that is run by people that don't know a damn thing about it. And we always sit back and we say to ourselves, why? What's the problem with boxing? Why is boxing like that? Well, you know what? I just told you why. Lamont, you dummy. Now, for those of you that don't know where that comes from, it's nothing against Lamont Peterson. And I go through this with people that are my age, and we chuckle. It's from Sanford and Son. Red Fox used to play a character called Fred Sanford, and his son, his name was Lamont. And every time he addressed Lamont, he would say, "Lamont, you dummy." So every time I see that name Lamont, that's all that pops into my head. Fred Sanford, Lamont, you dummy. And every time it just comes out. As soon as I say Lamont, I follow it by you dummy. It could be Lamont Jordan. I'd be, hey, Lamont, you dummy, Jordan. But anyway, Lamont Peterson, yeah, well, I'm not saying, Coach, listen, I know all about Joe DeGuardia. I'm good friends with him. He's saying Joe DeGuardia is a lawyer and is a former Golden Glove champion. No, I didn't say Joe wasn't a knowledgeable guy in the sport. I'm saying that the guy that he partnered with, the organizing group from the Times Union Center, what Joe is guilty of, and I've said this before. I don't have anything against Joe DeGuardia. I happen to like him. Joe doesn't invest a penny in nothing. I think him, getting the deal done with the Times Union Center is evident to that. Most other promoters would have looked into renting it and tried to figure out their deal there. Joe was smart enough, and he's been proficient enough in boxing for the last 20 years to never open up his checkbook, and he doesn't. So I can definitely attest to that. But I will say this: the Times Union was doing a damn good job. They had already sold 2,000 tickets to that. Which is a huge audience for a show like that with virtually no names on it. 2,000 tickets had been pre-sold for that show that was scheduled for this weekend. So it wasn't a lack of interest in having fighting in Albany, and as a result, the article, the gist of that article was that, hey, we may not see boxing in Albany ever again. Anyway, back to Lamont Peterson. He signed with Golden Boy. Imagine that. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that a little interesting. I do. Golden Boy. This is the same. Promotional company that Lamont Peterson had all kinds of issues with because of the steroid and blah 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 blah, and the Amir Khan and all this happy stuff. Well, it's all under the bridge now because they just signed an exclusive promotional agreement. Lamont Peterson is now part of the Golden Boy stable. However, his next fight, which is in a couple of weeks on ESPN with Kendall Holt, will be a fight that is not under the Golden Boy banner. In other words, their contract kicks in after that fight. Interesting, if there's a clause in that contract that says, should he lose, Lamont Peterson, should he lose to Kendall Holt, does that nullify? Does that nullify the contract? It would be interesting to see, But anyway, there's a new kid in town. There's a new promotional company in Germany. It's ITS, man. It's ITS Promotion, which stands for It's Promotion. I don't know what ITS stands for, but it's ITS Promotional Company, and they're going to be doing their first show March 9th, and they're going to be doing it at the CU Arena, which seats about 2,500. The main event on this card is Alexander Dimitrenko. And, apparently the goal here for ITS Promotion is to, and I quote, our plan is not to build up a big stable of fighters, but to present good boxing shows for real boxing fans, and at the same time give fighters a chance to present themselves who don't get the exposure they deserve at the moment. That's a great philosophy, but I'm sure it's going to change pretty quickly because boxers, you know how we're always blaming the promoter. Everybody always, Don King, he ripped off this guy. Oh, Bob Arum, he's the devil of boxing. Oh, Golden Boy, they say they take care of their fighters, but really they don't. Blah blah blah. Everybody's always blaming the promoter, blaming the manager, blaming everybody but the fighter. But I got news for you: the fighter, in a lot of cases, is responsible for just as much shenanigans as the promoters and the managers and the trainers and everybody else. Trust me when I tell you. And a great example is a fighter that will go to a promoter and say, hey, and this is a classic. So anybody that's involved in the sport, I know Coach is, and he's going to laugh at this, but, every fighter at some point will go to a promoter and he'll have his trainer, he'll have his manager with him, and he'll say, put my kid on. Put me on the show or put my kid on the show. He sells tickets. If you put my guy on the show, he'll sell tickets, because that's what all the promoters want. Carol's asking me, didn't you just blame the promoter? I blame the promoter for several things. I didn't blame the promoter with the Star Boxing and the Times Union Center. I was trying to paint a picture of why, other businesses outside of the sport of boxing try to distance themselves from the sport because of the unforeseen things like injury and stuff like that. That was my point. But the bottom line is this. A fighter will always tell a promoter that he can sell tickets and everything else. And whether they can or not, that's besides the issue. This, in my opinion, ITS Promotion is going to learn pretty quickly that you do need to sign fighters. You do have to have them under your promotional banner because when you put on a fight, you invest money in that fighter. Let's say you pay a fighter X amount of dollars and you think that he's going to sell that much money and then some in tickets, and you find out that 10 people bought tickets to see him, and you just lost a ton of money because you paid him substantially more than what revenue he brought in. So now, you're not going to want this guy, or you're not going to want to invest more money into this guy, if you're not signed to him. If he signs with you, and that he, has to fight on your shows, well then, maybe it's a different situation. So I think that you will see that this new promotional company will give you an opportunity to watch them now from the beginning, even though they're stationed out of Germany. But watch them and see if their plan changes. Right now they're saying we don't need to sign fighters. We're just going to give them opportunities. Well, at what cost? I find it pretty interesting to get the quote from Dimitrenko. He says, I'm happy about this opportunity. I didn't have to sign a long-time exclusive contract with ITS. They just asked me if I wanted to headline their first show. I think my name and reputation is helping them. And they give me the chance to do one thing that every fighter wants to do, and that's fight. So I see this as a win-win situation. Of course, I'm also happy to step in the ring in my hometown of Hamburg. Now, here's the part of this that I think is extremely comical. Alexander Dimitrenko thinks that, his name and reputation is why this company came after him. I mean, listen, I don't know about what his reputation is in Germany, but it's not that great here in the States. I mean, this is talking about an underachiever. We were talking about underachievers before. Brian Vera, he's an underachiever that overachieves. He's actually an overachiever, not an underachiever. He's an overachiever. All right, Rocky Marciano, overachiever. Jake LaMotta, overachiever. Alexander Dimitrenko, underachiever. So we'll see. We'll see if anything changes that. Anyway, a lot of people were talking about Triple G and him being the best middleweight out there and exciting and everything else. And obviously, HBO feels the same way. And I like Triple G. I like him. I think he's got a great personality. He's obviously a talented fighter and everything else. But I think the misconception here was that everybody thought that, he was going to start fighting all the best of the best of the best. And I think now that HBO has a vested interest in this guy, I think he's going to follow the same route as all of today's champions. He's going to fight, the least amount of risk for the maximum amount of reward. And it looks like on March 30th he's getting back into the ring again. And this time against Ousmane Adama, who's got a record of 20 wins and 3 losses, 15 come by knockout. He is ranked, but Adama is no world beater. I mean, not that. Hey, listen, don't think that I think that these fighters should always fight the best out there. I believe that I would rather see a fighter become busy, like maybe Triple G is considering, and fight 6 times a year, and make 3 of those 6 fights against top upper level, upper echelon fighters, and then the other 3 can be fights with less quality fighters. The stay busy, the stay in your face, the let me make sure you know who I am kind of fights. So I don't have a problem with that, and I think that people are going to be critical of Golovkin for taking on Adama, but I don't really have a problem with it. Especially considering that he just fought a couple of weeks ago. So if this guy's can fight 6 times a year, if he can fight every other month, that would be great. And eventually, who else is going to beat him in the middleweight division? Do you see a showdown between him and Demetrius Andrade? Do they throw Andrade in there with a Triple G now? Andrade looked pretty damn good the other night against Freddie Hernandez, but how does he do against a guy with the pressure that Triple G puts on? So a lot of interesting stuff. Listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, Brian Minto. I don't know what you think of Brian Minto, but to me, he's a glorified tough man. I mean, really, that's all he is to me. He's never really displayed anything, but I give Brian credit because he's never had an easy way of anything. He's had to work hard for everything else, but he's not giving it up. He's taken a couple of heavy losses. He's not giving it up. Now he's calling out a couple of fighters. One I don't really see a problem with, but the other one could downright be permanently damaging to a guy like Brian Minto, and I'm a little concerned about him calling these guys out. And then the other thing that sticks in my mind about Brian Minto is, what is he again? Is he fighting at heavyweight? Is he fighting at cruiserweight? He was fighting at heavyweight for the longest time. Then he went to cruiserweight. Then he went back to heavyweight. Now he's back to cruiserweight. I don't know. Follow the bouncing Minto ball. But, hey, hold that thought. I'll be back in 2.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
I have a bunch of questions, Donnell, right? If you feel like you want to, you can answer for JD first. Why will you win? JD Chapman, why will you win?
Maybe Holmes will get sick and get hit by a train that day on the way to the fight, or he might have diarrhea, he might have the flu, he might throw up. One of his eyeballs might fall out that day, and I might get lucky.
Talking Boxing
with Billy C. If you want your voice heard on Talking Boxing with Billy C., then call our hotline at 845-228-8710. Leave a voicemail, or you could just tell Billy C. that you like his mustache.
Should I ask you your opinion about this idea?
I'm just trying to give you the encouragement.
Listen, all I need from you is to make sure you don't hang up on people.
And if we like your call, we'll play it back on the air.
Billy, you have the knowledge and wisdom of boxing because of what you do and how well
Leave
you
your
do
name,
it.
hometown, and what you think of the show. 845-228-8710. We want to hear you. Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
Mike Tyson looked like he put on some pounds. He was fat. He went into McDonald's and he just said to them, hey, give me 6 of everything on the menu. He put on 2 watches and covered 2 time zones. I'm talking fat here. Got on a scale the other day and it said, come on, one of you guys got to get off. Last thing I heard is that he jumped into the ocean and he left a ring around the continent. He's fat.
Boxing
with Billy C.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Talking Boxing with Billy C.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, Talking Boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in. Because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
St. Jimmy's coming down across the alleyway. Up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette. He's in some butter net. Coming at you on the count of 1, 2.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. show, and you're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us. If you don't, what? You don't have Fight Now, man? Come on, man. You don't have the Fight Now channel on your sports channel lineup? Are you kidding me? Listen, man, you want to get it? All you got to do is call your local television provider and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. That's right. Pick up the phone and call it. I don't care if you have satellite dish or cable, and tell them that you want the Fight Now channel right now. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. Carol says she's getting confused in there in the chat room. She says, well, you were just blaming the promoter. Now you're sticking up. Now you're blaming. For anybody out there that doesn't understand, I'm not trying to. I was not trying to blame Joe DeGuardia for the issue with the Times Union Center. What I was saying was that other business people may not understand how crazy the business of boxing is. But I do admit that if I had to blame one group, whether it be the fighter, the manager, the trainer, the networks, the sanctioning bodies, the promoter, or anybody that's involved in the sport, idiots like me, whoever, the one group of people that I would blame would be the promoter, because I think today's promoter is lazy. They don't promote. They want the money. Like Coach points out, promoters of today actually make the fighters sell the tickets. That's BS, man. The promoter's supposed to sell the tickets. Any young fighter that is trying to get on a card, and they go to a promoter or they go to their trainer or whatever, and they say, "Hey, so and so, there's a fight right up the street in 2 months. I'd love to get on that card." And the promoter comes back and says, "Hey, kid, we'll put you on that card, but you got to sell tickets. You got to fight for your tickets." I think that's BS, because a fighter should be responsible for preparing for the fight. That's his job. He's a fighter. He's not a promoter. If he's a promoter, the promoters are supposed to sell the tickets. The promoter's supposed to market the tickets. Now, if you're a good promoter and you know that you have a local kid that has a big following, maybe you learned a little about him, and you put him on the show knowing that he's going to sell several hundred tickets, that's a different story. But that's not what happens. Coach hit it right on the head. He hit it right on the head. Today's promoter is lazy. I was directing Carol, who I guess is a fairly new boxing fan, to check out our website. Now, I admit I haven't kept up with the column I started because we're in the middle of getting these new shows out, and like I said, we got 6 coming. We already launched the one, which is on Thursday night on LDL TV, but we're going to come up with 5 more that are going to be available this year. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But if you go to the website, www.billycboxing.com, and under my column, Billy C's column, you will see an article about promoters who don't promote. And I pretty much describe everything, so I recommend that Carol go there. Brian Minto, before I went to break, I was talking about him. Coach says, I almost fainted when I saw Freddie Roach in Minto's corner against Donnell Holmes. You know, Freddie Roach, I think his days are numbered as a top trainer, you know, for a lot of different reasons. First of all, he doesn't have to anymore. He's financially sound. He's well off. He doesn't need the money, that's for sure. I know he likes the limelight. You know, as much as I know that the man is more knowledgeable than most in the sport, I don't think his home is behind a microphone at this stage of his career. I just don't. I think it's terrible that NBC Sports Network puts him up there. It's very hard to understand him. You know, it's just, I think they're using him. But from what I understand, he enjoys it, so hey. Back to Minto. He's Brian the Beast Minto. He's looking to get another world title shot. His record is 37 wins, 5 losses. If you look at the 37 wins, you know, they're against very marginal opposition. If you look at the 5 losses, they're all step-up level. But check this out. He's targeting 2 guys. One is the IBO Cruiserweight champ, Danny Green. Now, I don't have an issue with Brian Minto fighting Danny Green. As a matter of fact, I think that would be a pretty good fight. I think it would be an entertaining fight, and I think that it may be a fight that could materialize because Danny Green is always looking to import people into Australia and beat them up down there. And, you know, Brian Minto would pose a pretty big challenge, a good test for Danny Green, in my opinion, anyway. But the other guy he's calling out is Denis Ledebev. I mean, listen, man, this guy's a killer. Denis Ledebev is starting to train. From last I heard, maybe Coach can straighten me out. Yeah, against who, Coach? He says, yeah, he won his last 2. Yeah, against who? Coach, maybe you can help me out here, but Ledebev, he's training now in the United States, right? Or at least they hired a U.S. trainer to give him some United States style to his game. You know, and I think that was the missing piece of the puzzle for Denis Ledebev. And here's why. I've watched this guy fight, and you know, he's got unbelievable power. He's got a chin that it looks like you could, you know, swing as hard as you could with the biggest baseball bat you could lift and you know, hit him square on that chin and he would laugh at you. But his problem was, you know, the fact that he doesn't have anything else. He headhunts and he comes after you. Ask Roy Jones how it feels to get hit by and knocked out by him. You know, if this guy could learn a little defense, and if this guy could learn a jab. Now here's where, you know, we talk about, and we've been talking a lot about the Klitschko brothers and stuff like that. Here's where like a very solid jab like Vladimir Klitschko possesses would help Ledebev immensely. If this guy had a good jab and kept his hands up the way he should, and learned to pivot a little better, and maybe introduced some body attack, I think he could not only be at the top of the cruiserweight division. I think he could go down in the history as being one of the best cruiserweights ever. That's how much I like him. Yeah, Coach says he thinks they take him to Miami. So, and to answer your question, Carol, Brian Minto fought at heavyweight, and now he's campaigning as a cruiserweight. Although I believe the last 2 knockouts that Coach is referring to him with him were actually in the heavyweight division. So, but anyway, we'll keep you posted on the Triple G Adama fight, which is tentatively being talked about in France on March 30th. And we'll also see if Brian Minto gets his wish of getting his ass kicked by Denis Ledebev, or possibly traveling to the land down under for a matchup with Danny Green, the Green Machine. K9 Bundridge, we all heard about him signing with Golden Boy last year, it was. And ever since then, As a matter of fact, I believe they even signed him after he fought. But ever since then, he hasn't fought. And, today there's going to be a press conference that's going to announce his next fight, which is February 23rd. And who's he fighting? Is he fighting Saul Alvarez? Is he fighting another, or Slandy Lara? Is he fighting one of the other named top guys in the junior middleweight division? Nah, he's fighting Ishii Smith. He's taking on Ishii Smith, so not that, Ishii Smith is a bad fighter, but K9 Bundridge is not a guy that's going to be around for years and years and years. I really thought that, Golden Boy signed him specifically to feed to Saul. So they're going to announce the fight today. There's a press conference. Tomorrow. There's a press conference about that. The fight's taking place on February 23rd. It's on the undercard of the Devon Alexander and Kell Brook card. And also on this card is that new hot prospect out of Detroit that we've talked about and seen fight. He looks pretty impressive. Jalen Love is taking on former world champ Bronco McCart. So interesting card. I don't feel so warm and fuzzy about K9 fighting Ishii Smith. Not that I don't like Ishii Smith. I like Ishii Smith, and even Coach just said I'm calling for Ishii Smith upset because of the Mayweather influence. What's he been beating up on women and hanging around at topless places or what? What influence has? Just kidding. We hear a lot about Colombian fighters. They're kind of, he's from Colombia. Oh, he's this, he's that. But what we don't hear, and we do hear of a lot of fights that take place in Colombia. But one thing that we haven't heard, which I honestly didn't even think of until I saw the press press release, that there hasn't been a major world title fight in the country of Colombia for 22 years. All of that's going to change on March 9th when promoter All Star Boxing will be bringing a world championship fight to the Mario de Leon Coliseum, which is in the center of Montera in Colombia. And the main event is going to be, which is even, I think, even better for the fact that, it's these little guys. Junior flyweight, who's ranked number 2 in the world by the WBO, Luis De La Rosa, who's got a record of 21 wins, 1 loss, and a draw with 12 knockouts out of Colombia, is going to be taking on the number 3 ranked junior flyweight contender, Merlito Sabilo, who's out of the Philippines. He's got a similar record, 21-0 with 10 knockouts. What a great fight. What an evenly matched fight that's going to come to Colombia after 22 years to get a world title fight. I guess they are going to be fighting for the interim WBO junior flyweight title. Now, does that really count? I mean, do we need to give, there's a little confusion amongst people like myself. When we break down these fights, am I supposed to say that, when an interim title holder makes 2 or 3 defenses of that interim belt and then, loses and then, is fighting again, do you say former world champion? Do you have to say former world interim champion? I mean, man, it's getting pretty tough, man. It's getting pretty tough. But anyway, they're getting credit for having a world title fight in Colombia, and it's an interim belt. So we'll see what happens there. Again, March 9th. March 9th proves to be a busy day in boxing, at least coming up. I talked about this at the beginning of the show. Mike Molo. Now, in case you don't know who Mike Molo is, they call him Merciless Mike Molo. He's got a record of 20 wins, 3 losses, and a draw. And he's very similar to we're talking about Brian Minto. I look at Mike Molo as a Brian Minto clone. Not so much style-wise. I think Molo actually is a little more talented than Brian Minto, at least by the book. I'm not saying more successful, but he's definitely more talented skill set-wise, but not by much. But when you look at these two guys, they're similar in size, they're similar in style, they're similar in career path, where they've been and where they want to go and all that stuff. And Mike Molo was just named as the opponent this coming Friday on the undercard of the Carlos Molina against Corey Spinks fight, which is an elimination bout for the IBF junior middleweight fight title, which I believe is owned by K9 Bundridge. The undercard is going to feature Mike Molo taking on a new heavyweight, so to speak. He's they're calling him a heavyweight sensation, undefeated Polish heavyweight Artur Spilka. I think is how you say his last name, but you know me. Now Spilka is the guy that comes out. He dons a bald head. He's a Polish fighter. He comes out in a jail suit. He's not very big. He's destroyed a couple of people here and there. They're trying to bill him as the next big Polish fighter and everything else. He's been on some Adamak undercards and stuff. I've seen him live. I believe I saw him at Mohegan Sun, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he's got a lot to learn. But neither way, he's fighting Mike Molo. I love this fight, and I'll tell you why. I saw Mike Molo. Now, granted, it was a few years ago. I saw him fight, like I said earlier, Andrew Golota in a very entertaining fight. Now, could it be that Mike Molo was just not that good and Andrew Golota had faded that much and their skill was kind of on a parallel and that's why it was such an entertaining fight? That's most likely the reason. But what I liked about Molo was that he really gave it his all and he was a warrior in the ring. Now, Artur Spilka, he's a guy that tries to get in your head and tries to overwhelm you and everything else, but he's not that big. This isn't a guy that's going to, crush you. I crush you. He's not going to do that. He does have some pop, but, he's going to be facing a Mike Molo who's same size as him, and he's got the same mindset. Now, Mike Molo claims that he could be a world champion. He says, I quote, I made a few, they asked him in this press release, why he's been outside the ring. He says, I made a few bad decisions, business decisions, especially promotional-wise. And I've had 3 huge fights fall through on me on short notice. But what the boxing world may not know is that I haven't been sitting around drinking beer and eating pizza. This isn't the case. I've been training the whole time for these fights. I'm in tip-top shape, and I'm ready to go. I'm not the guy coming in for a payday. Now, I don't know what he actually means by promotional issues, but I do know that he was involved with the same clown, that I'm not going to mention his name, but the same clown who thinks he's a promoter, who hasn't even promoted a show, who brags about all his fighters and stuff. And I know that he, at one time, was signed with him, that Molo was signed with him. But as you can hear right from Molo's mouth, the guy couldn't obtain any fights for him. And now he's taking on this fight. Now I'm going to say it here right now on this show at 7:17 a.m. on January 29th in the year 2013. I'm going to say it right now, all right, that you will hear, maybe today or maybe tomorrow, but definitely before Friday, you are going to hear that there's going to be a lawsuit against Mike Molo from this clown promoter, and he's going to do one of two things, or he's going to do both. Number one, he's going to claim that this fight is not legal because he still is the promoter, and number two, he's going to try and get a court order to stop this fight from happening. You watch. Keep your eyes peeled. You'll see who the guy I'm referring to is a clown, and you see. You let me know what you think, if it happens. Unless he bought himself out. Mike Molo bought himself out of the contract, which I don't see. But anyway, I'll tell you which is even going to be better for Friday is the co-main event which is Jose Castillo. Remember him? He's going to be taking on Antoine Smith. Now, Antoine Smith is a guy that I can never get right, man. I can never get this guy right. So when I pick for him, he loses. When I pick against him, he wins. You know, he showed so much talent early on, and then he developed the habit of yelling before he throws his punch and all of that stuff. And I think that he basically gives it away to his opponent. And the bottom line is he's still a talented fighter, and I don't know if you can say the same about Castillo. You know, I mean, obviously he's a former world champion, and I think he'll be a Hall of Famer. But you know, that was a long time ago, and now it looks like he's fighting for paydays. I love this fight, and I just added it to our challenge. So. We'll see what happens. 3 good fights on Friday Night Fights this weekend. Man, is that, or at least on paper. I hope that comes off. I hope it comes off well. And I'm open for suggestions of what coloring book we should send Teddy Atlas to occupy his time rather than make attempts at filling out a scorecard. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, you hit that one on the head. Coach, you definitely did. Did you hear of Lucas Big Daddy Brown? Well, if you're in the UK or from the land down under, you know who Lucas Brown is. He's from Australia, and he's another one of these big up and coming heavyweights. He's no spring chicken. He's 33 years old. If you ever seen pictures of him, he's a monster guy with a little skin left that he could probably find a place to put some ink on. He's basically looking for a fight with another big guy from England, David Price. He says that he feels that that he and David Price are going to clash sometime this year. So we'll see what happens. You got Adam Etches is going to be up for his first title as a pro. He had a very successful amateur career, and they call him the Bomber. Now he's going to be taking on Andre Abraminka for the IBF's, the International Boxing Federation's youth title on Saturday, April 13th. He's only 21 years old, and his opponent, Abramenka, is 18 out of 22 fights that he's got W's against. So we'll see what happens in that one. If you don't know Etches, you can check out Hatton Boxing, Hatton Promotions. He's under the Ricky Hatton banner. And I tell you what, Ricky Hatton has got himself some pretty talented young fighters on his stable, that's for sure. So anyway, just to remind you guys what's going to be going. Coach is telling me that Lucas Brown was a ex MMA guy. Cool. He also feels that Castillo can still bang. Won his last 2 by KO. The question is he training? Now wait a minute. I know he won. He won that second fight. He was starting to fade. Remember, in his last fight, he was starting to fade. Was the last 2 knockouts? I know that he had a loss in there. What did he lose? His last 3, he lost one, then followed up with 2 W's. Was that what it was, Coach? That's the way my memory is serving me right now. I don't know if it's serving me correctly or not. That's a whole nother ball game. But I know his last. I know his last fight. He was dominating in the beginning. Kept dropping his opponent with the left, I believe. And then all of a sudden they stopped the fight when he looked like he was starting to run out of gas. I think that's the issue with him. He needs to end fights quickly because the stamina is an issue for him. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that what's going on later in the week, in case you missed it. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the Blast from the Past with Alex Papali. We're going to be talking about Billy Papke. Now, Billy Papke is a Hall of Fame fighter, former world champion, and left us a little little early, I would imagine, even though he's from a long time ago. So Alex and I will be talking about him. We're also scheduled to talk about, on the Heavyweight Spotlight on Thursday, Tony Treem and I are going to be talking about Elmer Ray. They called him Violent Elmer Ray, but they used to call him other things as well. And we'll be talking about him, a great heavyweight that's all but forgotten. As a matter of fact, there's so much, so little known about this guy. It's kind of scary. That's going to be taking place. Now, Marty Mulcahy, he joins us on Fridays. Nobody does it better than Marty. He's got a knack for breaking down fights and giving us the inside scoop and all of that stuff. So he'll be joining us. Now, as far as Dax Khan, as far as I know, he'll be joining us on Thursday like he normally does with his weekend boxing schedule roundup. But he's under the weather. He's having some issues with a procedure he had done. So I don't know if he will be joining us Thursday or not. And likewise with his story, his multi-part story about the Bryant Pappas versus the New York State Athletic Commission case. He will, continue with that, I guess. I don't know. That's Dax's baby. He, has it all. So I'm waiting like everyone else. I constantly, get emails about Dax's thing. There goes my shot. There goes my shot with Carol, Coach. Here I was going to ask her out for a date, and now she's telling me her ex-boyfriend is a MMA guy. So, when they say ex-boyfriend, that means, they have a new one. Otherwise they wouldn't even mention it. So there goes my shot with Carol. So, damn it. I guess I got to go back for those, beer, whiskey, wine, and gin drinking women. I got a shot with them at the end of the night. But anyway, make sure you tune in for that stuff. Tony Treem and I are going to have some fun doing that. Hey, if you missed Billy C's Change My Mind last week, fear not. We've gotten a lot of discussion on that episode, and as a result, we are replaying it on LDL TV Thursday night. So tune in Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and you'll enjoy it. So anyway, speaking of enjoying,
wake up. It's time for the It's Too Early for a Trivia Question.
Carol says, he was a jerk. Her ex-boyfriend. Does that mean I got a shot? I mean, you like older, bald-headed, fat Italian guys. Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question is being brought to us by Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. That's right. Give them a call today, 718-797-2872. 718-797-2872. Tell them Billy C sent you and demand the Billy C discount on anything you might buy. Hey, you might sign up for a boxing class. They got locations now, aside from Brooklyn, Manhattan and Jersey. They got places in Manhattan and Jersey. So, no matter where you are in the tri-state area, you can get to a Gleason's Gym. And by the way, if you're in London or even France, I heard there's one. So check them out. Mention Billy C. And if you don't want to call them at 718-797-2872, then you can go the new modern way. Visit our website, www.billycboxing.com, and click the banner. Yeah, it'll direct you there. All right, today's trivia question is being supplied to us by Henry Haskup, like he always does. And this is a tough one. The first one that emails me at billy@talkinboxing. Let me spell it, TALKIN, and then BOXING.com, talkinboxing.com. If you're the first one to get this answer correct, which has been floating around for a long time, and I'm sick of all coaches' wrong answers. I mean, you would think that this guy would have gotten it right by now. He submitted a bunch of incorrect answers, like all of you have. I got a lot of incorrect answers. Everybody seems to have thrown in the towel on this one. Don't do it. I don't like doing it, because what I'll do is I'll recycle it. You'll hear it again. So somebody win this one. The question is, who was the first world champion to manage a world champion? Who was the first world champion to manage a world champion? Now, Henry Haskup gave you guys a bunch of hints, and there's another one I've overlooked, so I'm going to be giving you the hints right now. Both of these fighters are in the International Boxing Hall of Fame as fighters. Both fought out of the same city and both had over 90 fights, but under 100. Here's another thing. Both were champions under the weight limit of 147 pounds. And the lighter guy, you couldn't lift. Now, if you search light guy you can't lift, you will find one half of this answer. And here's the other fifth hint that I never even noticed until yesterday. They were champions around 50 years apart, okay? So, obviously the manager was in his twilight years when he managed his fighters. So check it out. Email me the correct answer, billy@talkingboxing.com. And if you're the first one, you'll get the prize.
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanaro and Tomkovich. Give them a call today, 845-221-4099. That's 845-221-4099. Let Campanaro and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. On this day, January 29th, 1984, my friend Billy Costello knocks out Bruce Curry in the 10th round to win the WBC World Junior Welterweight title, and that took place on this day, January 29th, 1984, in Texas. You know, it's funny. I'll give you a little quickie. Billy Costello and I actually were at the Mohegan Sun on a fight on this night a couple of years ago before he passed, and I looked at him and I said, hey, you know what took place on this day? And he smiled. He acted like he didn't know, but he knew, man. He knew. That's what happened on this day. Billy Costello won his title. And I got one more thing to say. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel. There's only one channel, the Fight Now channel. Call your local television provider and tell them you want the Fight Now channel, A to G Sports Channel lineup. It's that simple. Pick up the phone and call. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on the website, www.fightnow.com. See you all tomorrow. Ciao, baby.